Hello, BookTube. I went to the Brattle bookshop first thing this morning to meet a family of loyal viewers of my channel in town. Wanted to meet at the Brattle. Fine by me. It was a beautiful day. I know that the weather services are all flashing bright red warnings for Massachusetts for heat, for extreme heat. And those warnings are supposed to encompass today and tomorrow. And tomorrow, well, sure, tomorrow is predicted to be, we factor in the humidity, well over 100 degrees. But today was supposed to be factored into that thing too, and I don't see it. Certainly the morning was lovely. So I went to the Brattle bookshop mainly to press the flesh and meet the fans, but so I wasn't thinking that I would get a lot of books. But I got a lot of books, so I thought I would show them to you. And just to keep you on your toes mentally, I will add in to this Brattle book haul one new release, and I will not tell you which it is. So you'll have to keep on your mental toes to see if you can spot the new release. So we can start with a mass market paperback. For a while now, for 2025, I have been encountering lots of books on the Holocaust at the Brattle, and I have been hoovering them up in order to read about one of the most depressing subjects that any history fan can read about. And while I was doing that, I was noticing a couple that I wasn't seeing, that I was actually expecting to see. And I found one of those today, the only one that has ever been in a mass market paperback. This is Lucy Davidovich. This is her book, The War Against the Jews. Massively detailed, very eloquent. I love the book. I would have grabbed a hardcover if I saw it, but I'll take this. Absolutely. Okay, I also found this oddity. This is a Modern Library, one-volume hardcover of The Divine Comedy by Dante. It's this. This is the Carlisle Wicksteed translation with illustrations by George Gross. I guess there is Dante in hell. I don't know how he would like that. But the main reason, I got this for a couple of reasons. One is that I don't have this translation, and I'm always interested in different translations, especially for work that can elude translators, and the Commedia can. Also, I got it because I like the way the notes are set up. You have to read Dante with notes. And in this case, the notes are at the end of each canto, just immediately. So the canto ends there, and then you get this block of notes. I find that kind of fascinating as an approach. But the main this is a prose translation. That's why it all fits on one little volume. And the main reason I got it was the cover, because somebody found this naked hardcover Modern Library, and they put a plastic cover over the hardcover so that they could add their own cover to it somehow. Very strange. A very strange. With this, it was not sold in bookstores looking like this. So I would have grabbed it anyway. I have a lot of translations of the Divine Comedy, so I would have grabbed it anyway. Okay, then these next two are 150-year-old hardcovers. That's not uncommon to see even in the sale lot of the Brattle. The Brattle knows what the Brattle can sell and what they want to sell and how they want to sell it. So mistakes don't end up in the sale lot, even if you get a good deal. You get a good deal, that's fine. Hopefully it'll make you a loyal customer. It should. But in both these cases, these are single volumes from larger sets. And I didn't get the whole set of either one. And at first you might wonder, well, why would you do that? Why would you get something that when you know it's incomplete? One of the answers to that question has to be that the individual books hold up on their own. Otherwise, it's madness, no matter what. But another answer to that question is that it is likely that the person who sold these books to the Brattle had the whole set, in which case the whole set was put in boxes. Maybe you were running out of room in one box when you were packing them up in Ipswich or Nahant or whatever. Maybe you ran out of room in one box, so 6 volumes of a set went in that one box. It is being brought down to the van when you start another box, and the remaining 5 volumes of that go at the bottom of that box. That can happen. And if that happens, when the books are ready to come up from the basement of the Brattle and be priced and disseminated either into the shop or into the sale lot, the books won't be together. Not all of them. So it stands to reason at the Brattle that if you find a volume of something and you don't find all the rest of it, you should probably get that volume. Only if it stands on its own. Only if it has legitimate interest on its own. But if it does, you should probably do it. Because if you wait to see the whole set, the original volumes that you spotted when the set wasn't complete will already be gone. So I did that twice today. There's this thing. This is the life letters and journals of George Eliot. And this is volume. What is this? Volume 25 of something like 33. Is that right? I don't know. 25 volumes. This is volume 25 of 25 volumes. So George Eliot dies at the end. And this has illustrations. Let me get you one of those. Doesn't have many of them. There we go. There's one. What have we got here? They're in these onion skin protectives. There's a monument to George Eliot. So we started to get the funeral. I think her funeral monument is in here too in Highgate Cemetery. But this is a remarkable set. And I wish if I had seen all, what was it again? All 25 volumes of this, I would have been strongly tempted to get all 25. Because this is, I don't know if you're going to be able to make it out. It's the editors working in everything for George Eliot to create the narrative of a life. So you have the journals and letters are broken up day by day, hour by hour, and worked into the narrative so that really it's George Eliot telling her own story day by day. And that approach is fascinating. What I wouldn't give for somebody to take this set, the life, the letters, and the journals, and get it out of these old hardcovers and put it in one big book. These hardcovers are, I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you. Let's put Diogenes to use, shall we? There's Diogenes. These are, 2/3 the size of a normal hardcover today. So if you were to take the typescript pages from all of these, take out all the artwork, take the typescript, the master pages of these, it would be one book. It'd be a big book, but it'd be one book, and it would be a book like no other. I am familiar with this approach, and oh my God, is it fascinating. More fascinating, I believe, no offense intended, than any big full-dress narrative biography could be, because this is full of the stuff they have to leave out. It's when you get to the life and letters and journals of George Eliot, you not only see what a social creature she was, even though she was what we would call an introvert today. We would call her an introvert. She makes mention many times in her journals about how she had a wonderful evening, but feels essentially like she has to recharge her batteries. She spends her social capital and then is exhausted. But also the journals and letters approach shows you what a thoroughly bookish creature she was. My God, constantly reading, constantly talking about reading, constantly writing about what she was reading, constantly, in a fascinating way. This thing is minimally footnoted, so that you're not left completely in the dark about what she's talking about. See, you've got minimal footnotes there, just enough to keep you going, just enough to keep you up with her. So this fulfills my requirements. I will love reading this volume. I just wish I had more of them. That's all. I mean, this volume includes, it gets all the way to the end of her life, yes? I seem to remember it being quite touching on that point, actually. She died as she would herself have chosen to die, without protracted pain and with every faculty brightly vigorous. And this volume also includes Middlemarch. It includes all of her ruminations on Middlemarch, including one point in the middle of that section of the book where she is corresponding with a friend about how she's working on Middlemarch and showing parts of it around to friends of hers, and a lot of those friends are saying, "Well, I'll just wait, and I'll read it all in one go." And she confesses to a friend of hers how very unhelpful that is. She's not high on her horse at all. She considers that to be very unhelpful. Once it's done, you'll be less help to me than giving me your reactions now. It's this is, I mean, obviously on one level an odd choice, because it's just one volume from 25, and this next one is the same way. This next one is not quite so odd. It was extra frustrating. I was frustrated when I found it. I went back to look extra hard to make sure I wasn't missing the part I'm missing. I could not see it. Either it won't show up at the Brattle at all, or it got split up from the rest of them. But somebody got John Morse's huge collection of the works of Oliver Wendell Holmes. How many volumes is this in? Does it say? This is volume 15. And I think this is probably the last volume, aside from maybe a general index. So that's a lot. That's a whole shelf full. And this is Oliver Wendell Holmes, not Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr. I don't know that any of you are going to know the difference at all. But if you're familiar, if you're familiar with the American Supreme Court, then you will know Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr. Fought in the Civil War when he was a boy, famous, gigantic white mustache, became, in many ways, the heart and soul of the United States Supreme Court. Wrote a very touching letter to William Howard Taft when Taft had to retire from the court for illness, the final illness of his life. Holmes is a fascinating, polarizing figure. Holmes Jr. is. He's had a million biographies, including a handful of really good ones. But we're not talking about him. We're talking about his father, who once upon a time was more famous. Oliver Wendell Holmes Sr., the doctor, also from Boston, just a thorough Boston guy, who really shot to fame with one volume, a volume called The Autocrat at the Breakfast Table, which until the 1960s, I think, or the mid-70s, you could still find paperback reprints of it. I don't think it exists anymore. I don't think it's in print. You can get probably a lot of Oliver Wendell Holmes Sr. on Project Gutenberg. I don't really know. But the Brattle had John Morse's multi-volume complete works of Holmes. No need to identify him at the time. There was no equally famous or more famous son at the time. And it had there weren't 15 volumes there, but there were a lot of volumes there, over 10, I'd say, or around 10. Autocrat at the Breakfast Table was not there. I think 2 of the sequels, when Holmes realized that he had a success with Autocrat at the Breakfast Table, he did sequels to it. And a couple of the sequels were there. Also, a volume of his poetry was there. And he did. There was a book that he wrote on morals, on ethics, etc., etc. But there was also Morse's own life and letters of Oliver Wendell Holmes in 2 volumes. So you've got the whole thing goes to 15 volumes, but his life and letters had 2 volumes in it, and this is volume 2. I looked everywhere for volume 1 and could not find it out in the sale lot, and nobody wanted this because this still has. I don't know if you're going to be able to make this out. This still has uncut pages. The whole thing is just uncut pages. Not just at the end of the volume where you usually find them, but right away at the beginning. No one bothered with this. Those of you maybe don't know what I'm talking about, and you don't have Jason Harrigan on the channel, on the platform anymore to explain it to you. Once upon a time, book printing presses, you would get this big picnic table-sized cloth sheet of paper, and the printing presses would fold it until it was book-sized and then print. But the pages were still folded. Some of them were still folded. So you would get individual pages, and you would be paging along like that, and then you would come to the part where the fold is. So, and the books would just be sold that way. So once upon a time in bookshops, it was an absolutely common thing that a bookshop would also sell a little knife for you to cut the pages of your books very smoothly. Not every bookstore did, because back when this came out, I'm going to say right at the beginning of the 20th century, 1896. In 1896, every single person rode a horse and knew how to ride a horse, and every single person had a knife on their person at all times. So it wasn't really that big a deal, but stores still did sell them. Just like once upon a time, in the olden days of the 1980s, music stores would sell CD openers. And there was a whole ecosystem of social commentary connected with the fact that books came with uncut pages. It's in lots and lots of literature. It was a way for people to enact silent judgment on their host, for instance. When the host gets up to go to the bathroom or out to the kitchen, quick, jump up to the shelves, go to volume 3 in some series, and check to see if the pages are cut. Because the book looks really impressive there on the shelf, but if the host didn't cut the pages, he didn't read it. And if he says he did, when the pages aren't cut, well, you know that he didn't. The same thing that was a running joke with commercial book reviewers. The book reviewers knew that they would get a better price reselling a book when they were done reviewing it if the pages weren't cut. If it was, in other words, in brand new condition. So they would try and review the book without try and review the book, just skipping those pages, trying to make things out as best you can. This is Holmes at the height of his power, and then his old age and death. And I'll take it, definitely. I just wish that I had found volume 1 of the Life and Letters, which would be volume 24 of the collected works, and I didn't. I looked real hard, and I didn't. I found a bunch of Oliver Wendell Holmes Sr. books that even I would not take on a bet, but I did not find volume 1 of this. Maybe it will turn up. Like I said, the important thing is that the volume you do find provides entertainment on its own, and this will. Very much so. Very much it will. And again, as long as we're on the subject, I know with this I said what I wouldn't give if somebody would take just the text, the manuscript of these 25 volumes, and make them into one big fat book. The Life, Letters, and Journals of George Eliot, just one big fat book. I think that could be done. Shorten the type, shorten the margins, maybe thin up the page quality. I think you get the whole thing in one big volume. This, what I wouldn't give if somebody would take the 2 volumes of this. These are also smaller hardcovers, and let's get Diogenes in on this again. Might as well put him to use. See, this is a smaller book. What I wouldn't give if somebody would take these 2 volumes and make them into one volume, The Ultimate Life of Oliver Wendell Holmes Sr. The author here was a longtime literary fixture in Boston, not Holmes, but Morse, the guy who wrote this. He was also the presiding genius behind the American Statesman series that I've talked about on this channel before, where you get some of the leading literary lights of the day to write about great figures in American politics and history. So you're not going to have a better biographer of Oliver Wendell Holmes. Not Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr., and no offense to Yankee from Olympus, but Oliver Wendell Holmes Sr. was an absolute, easily recognizable man of letters in America. I would love it if somebody would do that, if somebody would put these 2 volumes together and make a biography. Anyway, that is, in case you were wondering, this is the Steve book of the day. It's 150-year-ago Boston, and we're done with that. So you can wake up now. This next one is something that I have wanted since it came out. I read it when it came out. I sent it away to someone connected with Open Letters Monthly, back when Open Letters Monthly was an ongoing concern. Yeah, this is from 2008. And ever since then, I have been thinking about it and wishing that I still had a copy. So I found one today and grabbed it. This is by Pierre Bayard, and it is Sherlock Holmes Was Wrong. And the main intellectual centerpiece of this book is that he rereads The Hound of the Baskervilles. Arthur Conan Doyle's famous Sherlock Holmes novel, one of the most famous mystery novels ever written, one of the most famous novels ever written. He tears apart the Hound of the Baskervilles and comes up, believe it or not, comes up with an alternate theory of the crime. He comes up with a reading of Hound of the Baskervilles. It has no violence to the text. He's not ignoring anything or intentionally misreading anything. He comes up with a reading of the text in which the principal female witness is simply lying about everything, and points out that if that's true, if she's lying, then Sherlock Holmes gets everything wrong about the case. I think it's fascinating. I think that I trust Bayard, even though he wrote a horrible book called How to Talk About Books You Haven't Read, something like that I just hated that book. Especially for the tongue-in-cheek implications throughout the book that the author is being ironic and does not do this himself, when the author very much does this himself. But in this book, I don't accuse him of being duplicitous. I think there's just a couple of elements to Doyle's story that he missed. That's all. Just plain missed. There are a couple of things sandwiched in at the very end that more or less solve some of the problems that he's come up with. But the thing I love about this is how rigorously he thinks about the mechanics of a Sherlock Holmes story, and by extension, a detective story. I have wanted this. I mean, in the 2008, so 15 years since this came out. And in that time, I have gone back and reread The Hound of the Baskervilles many times, including out loud on this channel. I've gone back and reread Sherlock Holmes stories many, many times. Every time I get any kind of a Holmes reprint, I use it as occasion to go on a Holmes reading jubilee, when that is not ever called for, that is not ever justified. Considering how many times I've read these stories, that is never justified. I do it anyway. Every time I've done that, I've thought about this book. So, glad I finally have a copy. I'll probably reread it tonight. Okay, then we have the Best American series. The Best American Short Stories was a staple forever and ever and ever, even in mass market paperback, eons ago. And then the Best American series branched out, where each year you would come out with a new volume. And Best American Short Stories is still the flagship of the thing, but they quickly started doing essays. And then everything else. Sports writing, nature writing, reporting, young adults, everything. And at various times I've had quite a few of these things because they tend to be terrific. They really do. And I found I don't have many of them anymore. In fact, I have only one. But I found one today for $1 that I really do want. I remember really, really liking it. And it's from 2010. It's Best American Essays, with the guest editor being Christopher Hitchens. Who, if I remember correctly, does not commit sin number one in Steve's breviary of anthology editors. If I remember correctly, he does not include himself. But he writes the introduction. But who else? No, he doesn't include himself. Good. But I remember a lot of the things that are in here. I can't wait to reread this. Can't wait. Some of the volumes are just better than others, and this is one I was glad I saw. It was the only one that was there, so I was glad I saw it. Then this next one is an abridgment of a classic that I have never read. I've read the classic, only in translation, never in the original. But I've never read this translation, and I've never read this abridgment. The abridgment is by Moss Roberts, and he did a translation of The Three Kingdoms, an ancient Chinese novel that has been pastiched a million times, translated a million times. It's beloved. It's got tons and tons of separate stories in it, and some of those stories are oh my. And this has artwork from original versions or early versions of the story, and it abridges the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. So you will get whole segments for like the dramatic high points of some of those embedded stories, and then you'll get Roberts will bridge there to give you one book that isn't enormous. I have 2 other translations of this work, and at the ripe old age of 28, I think I'm safe to say that I will never actually learn the language to read the original. So this is a great classic of world literature that I will know it only through translators. So happy to have another one. Then we have this next book, What is this? Oh, very good. Okay, great. This is by Jonathan Healy, and it is called The Blood in Winter, England on the Brink of Civil War. So what have we got here? In 1641, England exits a plague-ridden and politically unstable summer, having reached a semblance of peace. The English and Scottish armies have disbanded, legislation has passed to ensure that Parliament will continue to sit, and people are tentatively optimistic. But King Charles I is not satisfied with peace, he wants revenge. So begins England's winter of discontent. As revolutionary sects of London begin to generate new ideas about democracy, as radical new religious groups seek power, and as Ireland explodes into revolt, Charles hatches a plan to restore his absolute rule. On January 4th, 1642, he marches on Westminster, seeking to arrest and impeach 5 members of Parliament. Used to have to memorize their names. And sets in motion a series of events that will lead to bloodshed and war, changing a nation forever. You could also say, you won't in the 21st century, you could also say that it was the actions of that Parliament and those 5 men that, what was it? Set in motion a series of events that would lead to bloodshed and war. You could also say that. Anyway, this book tells the story of an English people's great political awakening. Yeah. If they were asleep, maybe it's not a great political awakening. Maybe it's the beginning of a political nightmare. The author utilizes meticulous archival research to recreate the claustrophobic atmosphere of the day, with rowdy protesters in the streets and London blanketed in coal smoke. Taut and thrilling, Healy's newest social history shows us what really happened during those fraught winter months that led to civil war. And this is the author of The Blazing World, which came out just a couple of years ago. This is ground covered by C.V. Wedgwood in a book called The King's Peace. C.V. Wedgwood wrote 3 books on this subject, a big fat tome called The King's Peace, then a big fat tome called The King's War, and then a little coda called A Coffin for King Charles. I cannot recommend that trilogy of books strongly enough. And the King's Peace is really, really good, and opens with a 100-page set piece that is one of the best set pieces I know of in narrative history. I don't expect this book to hit for those heights, but I'll take it. I'll definitely take it, and we'll see what comes of it. Then this next one is something that just came up on this channel just the other day. I did a video about historical fiction for newbies. And I mentioned that a lot of historical fiction narratives are immense, and that's not good for newbies. It's a great appeal. It's a wonderful thing, but it's not good for newbies. You want to give them shorter works. And one of the books I mentioned that therefore I thought was really good, but that I wouldn't recommend, is An Instance of the Fingerpost, which I have found innumerable copies of this book at the Brattle, and the minute I find them, I give them away. I send them out. And I found this today. Somebody's already put a plastic covering over it. It's in perfect condition. It's nice and light. It actually feels fern. This can't be a UK thing, right? No, it's not. When I mentioned this, a lot of you emailed me and said, "Oh my God, is that good? It's been on my shelf forever." Or I must have got 10 emails from people saying, my father has that on his shelf, and he keeps meaning to get to it, and I keep seeing it and wondering is he missing out on anything. A number of people wrote and said that it was really, really interesting to hear me praise the book. I have praised this book on this channel many times. I do praise it. It is fantastic. It's just, it puts a lot of demands on you, the reader. A lot of, unapologetically. And not the way Dude Bro crap does. You have to be in this for the long haul. If you are, boy oh boy, will you get your payoff for it. But when I was getting all those comments, it naturally made me think about a print copy of the book. I have an e-copy of it. And when I thought about the book, I thought, oh, well, but you send it out all the time, so Is it possible you don't have a print copy? And I went around the place. I had to go around the place. I had to pull at books and move books aside because print and paper books are a-holes. They're not like ebooks. I can't, if I go to my Kindle, I can ask it, where is Instance of a Fingerpost? Show it to me. And it will say, yes, sir. Right away, sir. Immediately, sir. And then it will be there. In a second, it will be there. If it's there, it will be there. It'll be visible in a second. And once I find the ebook will then say, sir, would you like me to remind you what you wrote in this? You can access all of the comments that you made. Also, would you like me to remind you about where you left off, even though it was months ago? I'd be happy to do that, sir. Is that all right? My print and paper books tell me that my mother wears army boots. So I had to go looking, and I went looking and looking and looking. No long pressing, no typing in the margins, no nothing like that. And eventually what I found was almost worse than not finding anything. I found a mass market paperback. I found a squat mass market paperback of this thing. I mean, it brings me back. It gives me fond nostalgia. But I don't think I could read a mass market paperback of a 1,000-page historical novel anymore. Not only am I closing in on the big 3-0, but mysteriously book type seems to have gotten smaller. I don't know how that's happening. I don't know how they're coming into my house and making the type smaller, but nevertheless. So it was in the back of my mind. Of course, it can't be in the front of my mind. You don't go to the Brattle bargain lot with a laundry list, or you won't get anything. You just go where the winds take you. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking, the next time you see a copy of that at the Brattle, I see copies of this at the Brattle all the time. The next time you see a copy, maybe a trade paperback, if it's not too battered, you might get it. And what did I find? Perfect condition hardcover with a plastic covering on it. So, yes, I took that. And then finally, we can finish up with another Holocaust book. So we'll finish where we began. This is Martin Gilbert. Very productive, I think, really good. Historian, not great, but really good. And he did a slightly oversized book on the Holocaust. And I found that today as well for, I think, $3. This thing, Final Journey, which it's slightly oversized. Let's press Diogenes into action again. This is good. Okay, it's wider than a normal book and a little taller. So. It's a little bit of an odd shape, but it's full of illustrations, maps, diagrams, archival photos of just the saddest thing. It's just the saddest thing ever. So now I got 2 Holocaust books. I really think that's all I need. I have a shelf of Holocaust books now. So for a deep dive of the subject, that will work just fine. And there you go. That was my Brattle trip for this week. I certainly won't be going to the Brattle tomorrow if the weather forecasts keep... All the weather service are saying you're going to die. Tomorrow you're going to die. I don't believe it. But it looks like tomorrow I will have to be extra cautious. With Frida. With my little baby who is... He's wedged against me, as always. It looks like I'll have to be extra cautious with her. The pavement will be really hot on her little tootsies, and she doesn't wear little booties. Absolutely refuses to do so. And she overheats. She's just bustles along, so she overheats pretty quick. So I'll have to be careful about that. No long walks tomorrow. But I don't know. I think we'll be fine. But I won't be going to the Brattle until next week. So this will hold me until now. So we have Final Journey by Martin Gilbert, who wrote a ton of things. Wrote a ton on World War II, a ton on Winston Churchill. We have An Instance of the Fingerpost in the final hardcover. I can just put this in the little book room or reread it, because even those brief email exchanges were making me want to reread it. Then The Blood in Winter, about King Charles I, trying to ratchet down control over his subjects. We have The Romance of the Three Kingdoms in a 1-volume abridgment. We have Best American Essays, guest edited by Christopher Hitchens. We have Sherlock Holmes Was Wrong, about an alternate version of The Hound of the Baskervilles. We have 1 volume in the life of Oliver Wendell Holmes. I have volume 2 in that life. I want volume 1, which is volume 24 of the works of Holmes. Will I ever see it at the Brattle? I don't know. Happy to have this one. Then we have one volume, the final volume, in the Life, Letters, and Journals of George Eliot. Would I want the rest of them? Yeah, I probably would pass them up because they would take a whole shelf. But the final volume, which will include, a final essay, probably that's one I would have wanted anyway. Then this weird manufactured Divine Comedy in prose, and The War Against the Jews, to finish out my Holocaust reading. So there you go. That was my trip to the Brattle this morning. Had a wonderful time, met a wonderful family. Hello to you all if you're back home and watching this. It was quite a lot of fun to chat, and we all book browsed. And I got out in time before the place became a mob scene, and I got back to my little baby before it was too hot here or before she got upset in any way. So there you go. I will wrap this up for now. And I'll be back. And I will not give you any clues as to which was the new book in this pile. You'll just have to figure it out for yourself. That's all. So anyway, I'll wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.